Hello everyone, my name is Ria Anggraini. I would like to present about factors in language learning material in meeting 14. Until the next few minutes, I will discuss in detail about factors in language learning. The first, starting from internal factors, and the second, I will discuss about external factors of language learning. Okay, let's get started. What will be discussed first in this video is internal factors of language learning. Internal factors are the factors that the individual brings with them. In the internal factors of language learning, it is divided into two parts. There are cognitive factors and affective factors. I will discuss the cognitive first. Cognitive factors refer to characteristics of the person that affect performance and learning. There is some kind of cognitive factors in language learning. There are intelligence, aptitude, language learning strategies, and the last is age. First, I will discuss about intelligence. Intelligence refers to mental abilities that are measured by an IQ test or intelligence quotient test. Intelligence may be a strong factor when it comes to learning that involves language analysis and rules learning. On the other hand, it may play a less important role in language learning that focuses more on communication and interaction. It is a common observation that learners with good intelligence are able to do well in second language learning, at least in formal classrooms. But it varies from learner to learner, its difference doesn't matter. It is important to keep in mind that intelligence is complex and a person has many kinds of abilities and strengths. The second one is aptitude. Aptitude is considered a talent or an inherent capacity to excel in language. It is not achievement itself, but is the potential for achievements. Therefore, the learners, especially for beginners, often hear about aptitude tests that have been designed to predict individuals' future performance. Successful language learning are not necessarily strong in all of the components of aptitude. Some may have a strong memory, but only average ability to figure out grammatical rules. All learners do not share the same aptitude. Children have the right aptitude. They have change of learning well and quickly. That's why it is shown to be one of the strongest indicators of success. Aptitude for language learning is usually composed of 4 different types of activities. There are memorize new words, ability to identify and memorize new sounds. The third is ability to figure out grammatical rules from language samples. And last is the ability to understand the function of particular words in sentences. Next, we move to language learning strategies. Strategies are the implication that we apply. It has different levels. Learners with high motivation to learn a language will likely use a variety of strategies. Those who are successful in second language learning are having more useful strategies like planning, monitoring, rehearsal, organization, and etc. The last is age. Second language acquisition is influenced by the age of the learner. Children who already have solid literacy skills in their language seem to be in the best position to acquire a new language efficiently. Motivated, older learners can be very successful too, but usually struggle to achieve native speaker equivalent pronunciation and intonation. We continue to affective factors. Affective factors are the emotion or feelings that stem from the affective domain of human behavior. There is some kind of affective factors in language learning. There are language attitudes. The second one is personality. The third one is self-esteem. Next is self-efficacy. The last is anxiety. Okay, I will explain about language attitude first. Attitudes are crucial in language learning. Language attitude is an important concept because it plays a key role in language learning and teaching. Attitudes are internal states that influence what the learner are likely to do. The internal state is some degree of positive or negative or favorable or unfavorable reaction towards an object. Attitude towards a particular language might be either positive or negative. Some learners may have a negative attitude towards the second language and want to learn it to prevail over people in the community, but generally, a positive attitude strengthens the motivation. Some individuals might general neutral feelings. Attitudes towards language are likely to have been developed by learners' experiences. It could refer to both attitude towards language learning and attitude towards the member of a particular speech community. Next, I will discuss a personality. Introverted or anxious learners usually make slower progress, particularly in the development of oral skills. They are less likely to take advantage of opportunities to speak or to seek out such opportunities. More outgoing students will not worry about the inevitability of making mistakes. They will take risks and thus will give themselves much more practice. There are 8 characters types identified. The first is extroversion, introversion, sensing, intuition, thinking, feeling, judging, and perceiving. Next, self-esteem. Self-esteem is a person's subjective evaluation of their worth. We can see self-esteem in 3 different contexts, each of which has different influences on language learning and acquisition, including global self-esteem. Global self-esteem is the general or prevailing assessment of oneself, and it is also about the overall perception of oneself. In evaluating oneself, a person with higher self-esteem is likely to be more confident in their learning process, and thus more prone to learning. The second one is situational self-esteem. It refers to self-appraisals in life contexts, such as work, education, or defined skills such as athletic, musical, and etc. This can influence one's perception of their learning abilities. It in turn affects their ability to learn a language. The last is task self-esteem. Task self-esteem is one's evaluation of themselves within a given situation or task. This level of self-esteem more intensely affects one's ability to learn as it pertains to one's confidence in completing specific tasks. This can change from task to task, and it is more flexible than other levels of esteem. Next, we move to the next point, that is self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is a set of beliefs a person holds on their ability to complete a certain task. The attribution theory set light self-efficacy as it focuses on how people explain the causes of their successes and failures. The theory states that there are 4 explanations for success or failure, including ability, perceived difficulty of a task, luck, and effort. Next, anxiety. We felt this at some points in our lives, intricately intertwined with a subjective feeling of tension, apprehension, nervousness, and worry associated with an arousal of the autonomic nervous system comes into play in language learning. We must find ways to reduce anxiety in order to provide a learning experiences. Language anxiety contains three components which we can break down into researchable issues. The first is test anxiety. It is apprehension over academic evaluation. The second one is fear of negative social evaluation. This arising from a learner's need to make a positive social impression for others. The last is communication apprehension. It is arising from learners' inability to adequately express mature thoughts and ideas. Now I will discuss about external factors. External factors are the factors influenced by learning situation and environment. There is some kind of external factors in language learning. There are curriculum. For the learner, it is important think that the totality of their educational experience is appropriate for their needs. Language learning is less likely to place if students are fully submerged into the mainstream program without any extra assistance, or conversely not allowed to be a part of the mainstream until they have reached a certain level of language proficiency. The second one is instruction. Clearly, some language teachers are better than others at providing appropriate and effective learning experiences for the students in their classroom. The student will make faster progress. The same applies to mainstream teachers in second language situations. The science teacher, for example, who is aware that she or he is responsible for the student's English language development and makes certain accommodation, will contribute to their linguistic development. The third is culture and status. There is some evidence that students in situations where their own culture has a lower status than that of the culture in which they are learning the language makes slower progress. Next is access to native speakers. The opportunity to interact with native speakers both within and outside of the classroom is a significant advantage. Native speakers are linguistic models and can provide appropriate feedback. Clearly, second language learners who have no extensive access to native speakers are likely to make slower progress, particularly in the oral or oral aspects of language acquisition. Next is motivation. Motivation is a key factor for explaining the success or failure of any difficult activity. We know that success in a task is due to the fact that someone is motivated. It is easy in second language learning to state that a learner will be successful with the right motivation. There are two kinds of motivation. The first is intrinsic. There are integrativeness. The second one is attitude towards learning. And the last is motivation, that combination of attitude and aspiration. Next, there are extrinsic. In extrinsic, there are achieving in standardized tests for study abroad. The second one is achieving in standardized tests for employment. And the last is competition in the classroom. So, I think that's all. Thank you for listening. I hope what I convey in this video is useful for those of you who want to know about factor in language learning. Cheerio! Have a